A group of criminals started from a small village and spread throughout Italy for decades. The Italian mafia was formed in 1861 during the conflict in Sicily. At that time, there were no police or military forces in Sicily. This made the Sicilian capitalists feel threatened. They decided to hire people to protect themselves. These were novice thieves, poor farmers and homeless people. Thus the first mafia groups were formed. Because there were no police in Sicily, they were able to gain power in Sicily. But with the rise of the Mussolini government, the power of the mafia waned somewhat. Mussolini and his men were able to contain the mafia to some extent. But they could not destroy them completely. Mussolini went on a trip to Sicily. There, the mafia boss said in Mussolini's ear, "You will not be harmed here. We do not have police or military forces here. And we do not need a government, and we are stronger than them." Mussolini did not tolerate this humiliation, and in 1925 he started wars against the mafia and achieved victories. Mafia bosses were forced to leave Sicily. And after a while they left Italy. Many of them went to North America. Some of them went to Canada and some went to the United States. Especially New York and New Jersey. This immigration led to the formation of the mafia in the United States. The Rizzuto family settled in Montreal, and the Bonanno and Gambino families settled in New York. They maintained ties with Sicily and engaged in criminal activities in the United States. After World War II and the fall of the fascist regime, Sicily became a lawless region again. The situation is back to a few decades ago. The criminals were hired again and the police were evicted. This time the mafia had gained experience and no longer just stayed in Sicily and traveled all over Italy. He even tried to infiltrate the Italian government. Mafia groups became mafia organizations. During this period, they committed crimes such as murder, manslaughter, trafficking in young girls, and drug trafficking. But their main activity was drug trafficking and buying and selling property. And because they had infiltrated the body politic, they did these things easily. 10 years after World War II, the main powers in and around Sicily were mafia organizations. They made their work legal by hiring experienced lawyers. But this period did not last. A ship loaded with heroin disappeared on its way to America. The two mafia groups blamed each other. They created the first mafia wars, which lasted until 1963. And many people lost their lives. The central government in Rome decided to formally intervene. Police arrested a large number of mafia members, some of whom escaped and fled to the United States. Among those arrested was a man named Tommaso Busita, one of the most notorious assassins and one of the commanders of the First Mafia War. That many people had been personally killed by this person. In the following years, the police put more pressure on the mafia and the mafia business was affected. A mafia family means men who are members of a mafia group. And it does not matter if they are related or not. For this reason, most of these families are named after the cities in which they lived. Families are led by a boss. If the boss dies or is arrested, a second person will replace him. The boss always has an advisor. Two different mafia groups are connected by a man named Mandamento. There are 5 powerful families all over Italy, the most powerful of which is called Cupola. In 1967 and 1968, a strange thing happened in the Italian courts and the Italian judicial system. A large number of mafias were acquitted in a court of law. Then they came and said that there is no evidence against the mafia at all. And the press published that there was no such thing as a mafia. It was never clear what happened behind the scenes. but whatever it was, it made the mafia powerful again. During this period, the survivors of the mafia war entered the field. Later, using the remnants of the mafia, a family was formed called the Corleonesi, led by a man named Luciano Leggio. In addition to their previous activities, they started producing cigars. But their main job was to smuggle drugs around the world. In 1975, the Sicilian mafia owned Europe's largest heroin depot. Large quantities of this material went directly to North America, and the American mafia did the rest. In 1974, Luciano was arrested and a man named Totorina came to power. End of the first part.